Visit Sailrite.com for all your project supplies, tools, and instructions.
Hi, I'm Eric Grant from Sailrite. In this tutorial video, we're going to show you how to build a throated mainsail cover. This throated mainsail cover has the option of having Lazy Jack slits. And they're built with a hook and loop closure system with a zipper that opens up at the bottom so you can insert your Lazy Jacks. So it's a really nice, clean system that I believe you'll love. And we build these separately from the cover so that they can just be sewn on after the cover is mostly constructed. These sail covers do not come with Lazy Jack slits. They can be ordered separately if you have Lazy Jacks. This is a two-leg Lazy Jack system. Throated sail covers are made from Sattler Marine Grade Fabric, which is 100% solution dyed acrylic for great UV resistance, water resistance, and it's also breathable. We have many colors to choose from at the Sailrite website.
Throated sail covers come with a zippered front, Twist-Lock Marine Fasteners at the bottom edge of the throated sail cover, with buttons on the opposite side for a great appearance. At the aft end of the sail cover, there's a line to secure the sail cover to the end of the boom. At the top of the sail cover at the mast, there's a boot with a line that you can tie around for a secure and tight fit. Throated sail cover kits do not come with Lazy Jack slits. If your rig includes Lazy Jacks, be sure to order that kit when you order your Sailrite throated sail cover kit. The first step in ordering your throated sail cover kit from Sailrite is taking measurements, and we'll do that at the boom, unless you already know your E-measurement. Let's get started.
So what I'm doing now is I'm just securing my tape measure because I'm doing this by myself, which would be the back side of the mast. So it should be measured from here. I think I'll secure it down here just to make sure that it's right behind the gooseneck. There, so there my tape is. So I'm trying to determine what size kit I need. So I'll just go straight back. And if the outhaul were fully back, I'd probably get 135 would be the extreme max. That's our measurement to determine the size of our throated sail cover.
Ours measures slightly over 11 foot, so we're going to get a 13-foot kit. Sailrite throated sail cover kits come plotted. In this chapter, we're going to show you which one to cut.
If you've ordered the 13-foot kit or the 16-foot kit, there'll be two patterns on your fabric, and you need to determine which pattern to cut on, the smaller one or the larger one. To do that, what you do is you come to the boat with a sail flaked on the boom, and you measure from the headboard, so it's flaked perfectly like this, the top of the headboard, along your mast, all the way to the bottom of your boom. So the bottom of the boom is here, so I get about 34 inches. So after you have that measurement, then you can determine whether you're going to cut on pattern A or pattern B, and this is only for the 13 and the 16-foot boom kit. The 10-foot and the 19-foot boom kit only has one pattern plotted on it.
Each sail cover kit is plotted directly on the Sattler Marine Grade Fabric with our 50-foot plotter bed, so all you have to do is cut on the lines. Depending on which size kit you ordered, there may be two different size sail covers plotted on the fabric. If your pattern has two choices to select from, you'll take the measurement we took at the mast with the sail flaked on the boom from the headboard to the bottom of the boom. With that measurement, we can pick the right one to cut out. Let's go back to our pattern. If you've ordered the kit for 10-foot booms, just cut on the pattern provided. If you've ordered the 13-foot boom kit, pattern A if it's less than 36 inches, and pattern B if it's more than 36 inches. For the 16-foot boom kit, if it's less than 38 inches, pattern A. If it's more than 38 inches, pattern B. And the largest one, the 19-foot boom kit, there's only one pattern. Cut on it.
Some of the Sailrite throated sail cover kits have two patterns on them. You can see there's one here and there's also one here. Now if you go with the big one, you'll notice there's a 1/2 inch lip here. This doesn't plot on that, so what I would do is I would extend it here.
Freezing the frame here. If your curve goes to the edge of the fabric, the plotter can't plot that close to the edge, so you always want to add this 1/2 inch line if your curve goes up to the edge.
This line doesn't go all the way to the edge, but it's intended to go all the way to the edge. This is the forward portion of the cover, and we're using the Sailrite Edge hot knife with the precision cutting foot and blade. That means I don't have to have a cutting glass underneath. Now if you go too fast, it won't seal the edge of the fabric appropriately. So even though you can go pretty fast, I'll show you, I could go this fast, but I'd like to go slow because it seals much better. So again, we're going with a small pattern here, and we're going to make a turn here. I'll just cut off a little bit into that so I can pull the fabric back and cut that little 1/2 inch pip. Goes around corners beautifully, this curved edge. Okay, there's 2 of these patterns. We're going to cut them both out, and there's also a boot top. We're going to cut that rectangular shape out as well. And then we'll come back and I'll show you what's next. The boot top is usually in the middle between the 2 panels, so this is where it is for us. Sometimes it can be on an end for larger ones, so don't forget to cut that out and set it aside. Okay, the first thing to do is to set them like this on a tabletop or floor. And this one over here would be starboard, and I'm going to call it sout for starboard out. And this one is port for port out, so pout. Okay, so now that's the outside surfaces now.
The Sailrite logo is adhesive backed, but it also needs to be sewn. So we're going to show you how to do that now.
Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm going from this 1/2 inch pip here, and I'm going to go down about 16.5 inches, and I'm going to put the logo in here like this. It's a circular logo, but it has a square bottom, so I'm going to try to put on that like that because that's how our logo is. So this is parallel to the bottom edge. I peel off a little bit of the backing now. I do have to sew this, unfortunately, oops, I got a little thing in there. I'll get that straightened out, and we'll put the other one on this one in the same manner. Okay, to sew around the logo, what I do is I scroll up the bottom here and I stop right about here, and then hopefully that doesn't come undone, and then I come over here to the corner, and this way I can get it through the throat of the sewing machine. So I scroll this fairly tight to the logo, and then I scroll this one so that it basically eats this one like that. Now I have an easier surface to sew. So I twisted this as far as I possibly could, kind of like a coiled up spring. So we're going to start over here, and I reduce the stitch length to something small, and I move my needle to the right. Okay, so I'm going to use this inside right side of the presser foot as a guide, and we'll just start sewing here. And I've also turned down the worker bee. It is incredible how slow you can go with the worker bee to get precision. And since we have it sprung like this, it's really not that hard to sew a circle like this. So see how everything is kind of just coming around nicely? And I'm just straightening it as I go. And since I've got such slow speed on the worker bee power pack system, I have ultimate control. Now, when I want to adjust something like right here, I'm going to bury the needle, and then I'm going to lift my fabric up a little bit on the table so that I can continue around without the fabric getting stuck on the back of the table. All right, and when you get to the beginning, I'll just do a couple reverses. Not too hard.
Next up, we're going to sew the starboard and port side of the sail cover together at the spine.
Okay, so we have the logo sewn on, and typically what I would do is I'd sew the front zipper on first. But if you want a tailored fit, and if your sail cover, in other words, the boom length, is kind of on the fringe of being acceptable, like ours is 11'3", I think, something like that, and we chose the 13-foot kit because we can't obviously do it with a 10-foot kit. So ours needs tailoring. Now, if you're very close to the parameters of 10-foot, 13-foot, 16-foot, and 19-foot, you probably don't need to tailor it, but it's always a good idea. So because of that, what we're going to do is we're going to sew the spine, which is the top of the cover, together. Then we can lay it on top of our flaked sail and determine if it needs tailoring. In other words, if the front edge needs to be cut down a little bit, or if the bottom edge needs to be cut down for almost a perfect fit. This ruler is set to 3/8 of an inch, and this is that 1/2 inch, kind of like a pip, where the boot top's going to be sewn on. We want to mark it at 3/8 inch. Now we're going to actually be seaming it together. In other words, I'm going to start the seam stick here, but before we do that, we need to cut to that 3/8 inch mark straight at that juncture. Let me get this heated up. So right there, and stop. We need to do that on this panel and the other one. I'm going to take the 3/8 inch basting tape that's included in the kit, and we're going to follow this curve as close to the edge as possible because we don't want this glue to show up. And the Sattler Marine Grade Fabric is an acrylic, and it is stain resistant, water resistant, and UV resistant, and that means it's glue resistant. So I usually use a Sailrite canvas patterning ruler to apply pressure on the double-sided tape to get it to stick well. We're going to go all the way down the spine. Seam stick is applied to one panel, doesn't matter which, and then outside surfaces must face each other, so the logos face each other. And then we're going to line these up on top of each other so they're directly on top. So now we'll peel off the transfer paper, revealing the glue, and I'll just go to about there for now. And we will baste it here, following this edge, and I am going to clip it to make sure it stays basted well, and I'm also going to apply pressure. These are the large grip clips, phenomenal because they have sticky staying power and they're super strong. So I'm going to put one every 12 to 24 inches as I baste it together. So we're at the sewing machine after we basted it together, and I'm just going to measure a 1/2 inch over, and I'm going to basically draw where I need to sew, and it'd be a 1/2 inch from this one as well. So we want to round it to that. And that just gives me this corner that I need to sew, and then I'll just sew a 1/2 inch from everything else. So the first stitch, I'm not going to put the magnetic guide in. My needle's in center position, and I'm just going to twist the fabric around. And I'm going to sew with a smaller stitch length around this corner, and then I'm going to go to 6 millimeters. And the reason being is it's going to splay apart, and the smaller stitch length will basically make it so that it takes the turn better when we do the top stitch. So here at the top, I'm going to do some reversing, and I'm going to follow that line that I struck on there. Go a little bit more. Okay, so now with the needle out, I'm going to increase my stitch length back to 6 millimeters and my reverse back to 6 millimeters, and then I'm going to put the magnetic guide on right here at a 1/2 inch, and then I'm going to remove this clip, and we're just going to follow this edge. Now, right now my worker bee is turned down so I can be precise at this curve. But once I get past that, I'm going to turn my worker bee back up again to the full power, or full speed, I'm sorry. Just follow that curve. We're sewing 6 millimeter stitch length. Make sure the fabric doesn't get caught on the table as you sew. I should have had my needle buried when I made that adjustment, but I didn't. All right, we'll sew all the way to the end of the spine. Once that stitch is done, we're going to start here at the top, and we're going to open this up, and you do have to push this fabric into the throat of the machine. Now, this is the only difficult part, is at the top here. So we really want to start here with the fabric splayed out so it's almost straight up here. Let me get this underneath the arm so that we don't have to contend with that. Okay, and then I'm going to sew right there with my seam allowances over to the right, so I can feel it under there. So you need to make sure that you sew through your seam allowance. I'm going to do some reversing. I'm sewing 6 millimeters here, and once I get past that spot, I have to splay the fabric out, which you will see. Okay, so now I'm almost past that little spot, and I have to take this fabric and pull left and right I'm trying to make it so you guys can see it's awfully hard. See how the fabric's pulling? And I want to make sure that my fabric is laying flat. I don't have a pucker here. Looks like I do. So I got to pull that up. There we go. Now I need to lower my foot. Just sew a ½ inch at a time. Make sure you bury your needle when you make adjustments. Again, this is the only hard part. Splay, splay, splay. That looks pretty good right there. Bury the needle. Pull the fabric till I get to the first stitch. Make sure it's flat. And make sure that we're not sewing through any other layers of fabric and the seam allowance is still on the right side, and it is. Buried needle. Okay, so now look, see, it's pretty easy now. Now we just do this all the way down the backbone, trying to keep it nice and straight because everybody's going to see this stitch. Bury a needle when you make adjustments. Nice. And if you want to go slow, turn down the worker bee. I'm going to go half speed because some people say it's easier to sew that way, and it probably is. So now, because I did that, I get ultimate control, and I can go slower if I want. Here it needs to be splayed apart, so I'm going to pull like this.
We're going to now take this cover to the flaked sail and place it over it for tailoring.
So our sail is flaked on here, and what I've done is I've taken the halyard here and we've attached it while the Lazy Jacks were taut. Then we released the Lazy Jacks and we laid the sail cover with the backbone sewn in place. And we're just checking for a tailored fit here. And it actually looks like it's gonna be perfect. The headboard is just a couple inches down from this peak edge. So if I had a new sail, it'd probably fit pretty nicely. If I come around to the front here, I have this much extra fabric at the mast, which is probably a little bit too much here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tailor the front, if I can find my chalk. Here it is. So what I'm going to do here, since this is pretty much right where I want it here, I'm only going to mark it here because I'm going to mark a line parallel down to here. But I'm going to say I want the finished. I'm going for a finish because I'm going to add for my hems probably to be, if I had a new sail, to be a little bit fuller, probably right there, which is basically about 2 inches forward of the mast. Now I'm not going to mark it on the other side because we'll just measure it for the other side there. In retrospect, I wish I would have added more than just 2 inches at the front here. If I would have added 3 to 4 extra inches of fabric and then cut off the excess, it wouldn't have been so tight along the front edge here. It still fit, but it's too tight in my opinion. That's our tailored fit for the front, where the zipper will be. For the bottom, it comes around, and the bottom of the mast is here. I don't mind for this to hang a little bit low. You want at least 2 inches, so maybe what I would say is I'd like it to finish right about here. That would be 2 inches or so under the mast, but considering our hem allowance, it's probably going to be we don't cut this off at all for this. So I think this fits great. Now let's go ahead, now that we have this all the way here, we can also determine where the back edge is. I'm going to make sure this is straight along here, and then we'll show you where the back edge should be cut. Okay, so I have it straight and I have it against the mast, and this is the end. I'm going to mark where I want it to finish, and I'm going to make it a little bit long here, so I'm going to mark it right there, and that should be plenty. If not, I don't think it'll be too much. It's a little bit much, isn't it? What do you think, Seth? Yeah, I think that's a little bit too much. I'm going to actually come back right about here, because my sail with my outhaul is, I can feel, I think that's it right there. Let's see where it is. Oh no, that's a knot. So the sail comes to here. I'm going to have it end right there. So right before that knot. Knot here. We're going to go right to here. Okay, so I'm going to put an arrow on that so I know that. This is our finish size. We'll add some for hem allowance. So now we have it tailored to a perfect fit.
Don't have Lazy Jacks? Skip this chapter. If you've got them, mark them now on the cover.
Okay, so what I've done now is I've reattached my Lazy Jacks, and obviously the sail cover doesn't like to go down here, but I'm just trying to get it up here, right where it's supposed to be, up against the mast, and then make sure this backbone is almost on our flake sail. It's a little bit off, but it's really close. And then straighten out the canvas to that point. Let's see. We're not worried about down here, we're worried about the exiting point up here. And it looks like it's coming out right about here. So I'm gonna put a circle there, and we'll do the same thing on this side. It looks like it's gonna come out right about there, so a circle there. Now we wanna walk this down along the backbone for the Lazy Jacks, any other Lazy Jacks. This is only a 2-leg system. So let's see, I'm gonna swing it out so I can get a hold of that. Where will it come through? So let's see, the backbone is at the top. I think it's gonna come through right about here. Remember, we have a 4-inch slot, so as long as we're close. Yeah, right about here. That should come through there, and we'll do the same thing on the other side, and that will determine where our Lazy Jack slits are.
Now we'll concentrate on hemming the bottom edge of our sail cover.
Okay, along the bottom edge, the first thing you need to do after you've tailored the fit, if you've done that, is create the hem at the bottom edge. Remember, we're not chopping any off the bottom edge. We're marking up 2.5 inches with the clear acrylic ruler. Instead of the clear acrylic ruler, you could use the Sailrite canvas patterning ruler. That's at 2.5 inches here, and you just take this and you go along the edge like this. This really works well for marking a long hem. This will be a double hem. We're going to put double-sided tape. This is the 3/8 inch that's included in the kit. This is an acrylic glue, not a rubber glue. So if you're using a light fabric, a lighter color fabric, the glue sometimes can be seen through it if it yellows, and this acrylic glue does not. So make sure you use it. Comes in the kit, so you probably will be. We're using the Sailrite canvas patterning ruler to adhere it down well, to make sure that it sticks well to the Sattler Marine Grade acrylic fabric. Peel off the transfer paper, and we're going to hem. This is the first of the double hem, all the way to that line that we struck, and we're going to press it down well all the way down the length. We'll do this to the other side as well. I don't know if it's starboard or port, but obviously the procedure is the same. On top of that hem, we're going to put the double-sided tape very close to the folded edge all the way down the length. Peel it off the transferred paper, and then we're going to fold to this edge, which is pretty easy to tell where it's at because you can kind of wants to fold there naturally. And we're going to do this all the way down this length. We're going to use this again, and we're also going to use these new grip clips. They're large, but boy, do they hold, and I'll put them about every 24 inches or so, just to make sure that it stays clipped as we take it to the sewing machine and sew. Pretty cool. I'm going to put a straight stitch here about an 1/8 inch from this fold and an 1/8 inch from this fold. And to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to position this over here, and I've already got my needle in the left position, and I'm going to say right about there is about right. It doesn't have to be perfect. And then I'm going to put the magnetic guide on like that, and we'll just do a little bit of reversing. This is 6mm straight stitch at the end, even though that's probably going to be cut off. And we'll just sew down all the way down this length. Doing this every time I get to one of these clips, I'll just remove it like that. All right, we'll do it here, and we're also going to do it here. For the second row of stitches, I move the magnetic guide to the front here. It sticks pretty well there, and we'll just use that along this edge.
Up next, we'll install the zipper on the front edge of the sail cover.
So this is the top, and we marked it on we marked it over top of the flake sail for a tailored fit, which we did because we're really close to the perimeters of 11 foot rather than 13-foot kit, and this is 13-foot kit. So I transferred this line to the back side. Now that's the finished line, and we're going to add 1 inch to that for a hem, a single hem. So 1 inch is right there. We're going to use a clear acrylic ruler and place this on like that. Okay, so now we're lined up, and we're going to strike a line. This is going to be our cut line, not our hem line. And we're going to do that on this side and also this side. We'll use the same measurement for that side. We're going to cut on that line that we just made 1 inch from where we want the finished edge to be with a hot knife to keep it from unraveling. So we already cut this side the same as the other one, and we're going to mark it over now 2 inches. And we're going to create a single hem that's going to be 1 inch. So I'm using the clear acrylic ruler, and I'm marking to the back side. You'll notice the hem is facing up and the logo is facing the tabletop. Okay, so now I put double-sided tape on here, and we press it down with the Sailrite canvas patterning ruler to adhere it well. Okay, peel off the transfer paper, fold to that line, creating a 1 inch hem, and then use the canvas patterning ruler to crease it well and to apply pressure to the double-sided tape. At the head, this is the top, we want to mark down 2 inches because we want our zipper to start not at the top, but about 2 inches down. And we've already separated the two halves of the zipper, and I put double-sided tape on this one, but I didn't do it on this one. We need the starter post and the starter box to start at the top here, so that means that the double-sided tape goes on this side. Now I'm going to use the 3/8 inch double-sided tape, but if you have the 1/4 inch seam stick for canvas and upholstery, I'd probably put that on the zipper. This is what comes in the kit. As long as you keep it as far away from the teeth as possible, this will work great. So this is the starter post, or it could be the starter box, doesn't really matter where it goes, but it goes on the inside. The hem is facing up, and we want it on there so the teeth are just barely exposed. See that? That protects it from the weather. And we'll do this all the way down the length. Now this zipper is going to be too long, it always is, so we're going to cut it to size, and we're going to put a stop at the bottom. I'll show you that as soon as I get this basted on. Now I always check to make sure the teeth are exactly the same going up the fold before I start sewing, because I want to make sure it's consistent. At the bottom edge, I'm going to trim it so that there's probably a 1/4 inch or a 1/2 inch of fabric not done. Then we're going to put a stop down here. Out of some of the scrap, you'll definitely have scrap. Cut a piece that is 2 inches by 6 inches and put double-sided tape down one long side, and then fold it in half like this. I did cut this out with a hot knife so the edges are sealed. And then I'm going to take it and I'm going to fold it in half this way, and I'm going to, I know this is not hot knifed, but it'll be fine because it's the inside edge. Then we're going to take this, and I'm going to put double-sided tape on one of the sides of each one of these, because one will be a stop for the one side of the zipper and the other one will be a stop for the other. We'll peel off the transfer paper, and we want the fold to go up. So we're going to lift this up. Not a bad idea to touch that with a hot knife, but I am going to hide it by doing this. So I'm going to put it on there so that it doesn't go over the edge, and then I'm going to fold this over, and then after we're done sewing, I'll cut off the excess. So that's a great stop, and we'll do the same thing on the other side. So we're going to put this zipper with the box at the same position on that side, following the same procedure. Now before we put this one on, we're going to sew this one because this is basted in place and it may come off. So we're going to take this to the machine, then we'll do the same thing to the other side with the starter box. I moved my needle all the way to the right. Let's make sure it's up. With a straight stitch because I want to get close to the zipper's teeth and so the double-sided tape doesn't show. And I'm just trying to find out where that foot would fall next to the teeth as I sew, and it looks like it's right about there. Make sure that it's still basted down well. Looks good. We're going to do some reversing here. This is a lot of thickness, so go slow here, because we're going through that stop and we're also going through 2 double hems. That should be good. And then all we want to do is just follow the zipper's teeth with that right foot up against it. When I get to the reinforced area of the zipper, I'm going to do a little bit of reversing here, and then I'm going to go all the way up and reverse right here. Okay, we're done. Okay, I've determined where the stitch will go with my presser foot against the teeth, which is right about there. So I'm going to start all the way up here at the top, lower my foot, and I'll do a little bit of reversing up here. Now we got to get past this box, which is a little bit sticking past the teeth. So I'm going to just try to push it up against the teeth, and then I'm going to do some reversing in that flange just to reinforce it, and then I'm going to walk beside my teeth. Okay, so now when we get to the slider, I'll show you what we do when we get to that. So I'm to the slider. I'm going to bury my needle by rolling the balance wheel by hand, so the needle's just coming up a little bit. Lift my foot, and then I'm going to push the slider. I'm going to try to keep my hands out of the way past the foot. Don't forget to lower the foot, and then continue to sew all the way to the bottom and do reversing.
Cutting and then hemming the aft edge and installing the line is next.
Okay, we already marked it on the sail. This is where we want the back end to stop. This is our finished. So we're going to add 1 inch to that because we're going to do a single 1 inch hem. So I'm just going to go down parallel to the bottom edge here. So make sure that you use a clear acrylic ruler or something like that. We're going to strike a line here. This is going to be our cut. And then we're going to do the same thing over here. We're going to be parallel to this side because this isn't straight all the way across here. It shouldn't be straight. So right to that junction, and you can see it kind of creates a small little V. We're going to cut on that line with a hot knife. This will reduce some of the bulk. We have to put Lazy Jack slits in. Sometimes if you have Lazy Jacks, if you don't, you would obviously skip that step. But this step is necessary for all sail covers. This will be an open aft end. Now we're going to put a mark on the inside. The hem is facing up. I flipped it on 2 inches from that edge with a clear acrylic ruler and 2 inches from this edge, making sure it's parallel. And then we're going to put double-sided tape on here. And again, we're going to use our Sailrite canvas patterning ruler to adhere it down well. We're going to peel this up. Now in the middle, it's going to look a little odd because it's not a straight hem. So I'm going to fold to here. Probably going to use some clips too. But at the middle, I'll show you what we're going to have to contend with. It looks like it's actually folding pretty well. Sometimes there's a bump here or a wrinkle of fabric, and just leave it in there. It's not going to matter. Okay, this one actually came out well, probably because it's a fairly small cover. So I'm going to sew with 2 stitches. I know this is a smaller stitch or hem, but I'm going to put this one really close to that raw edge, and I'm just using the what is that, the left side of the inside presser foot as my guide. And then I'm going to put a stitch close to this edge too. Reversing at the beginning and the end. Okay, so I have the leech line that's included in the kit, and I've cut mine to 24 inches by 24 inches, so it's 48 inches in length, and I folded it in half, so I have 24-inch legs. I'm going to put it right in the center of the backbone on this back edge, and basically right along this edge, and press tight. And I'm going to put the machine in a zigzag. If you don't have a zigzag machine, then you can do it in straight stitch, and I'm going to reduce the stitch length so it's pretty small. So let's do it here. Let's first put a stitch in it. I'm going to go right on top of the line. And whoa, we got to hold that together. Okay, once it's in place, then we'll just reverse and forward several times. Wish I held it together better, but I didn't. I'll do it a little bit better over here. Yeah, that's going to work. fine. We're just going to go over this quite a bit with the zigzag stitch or straight stitches you could do. Just want to hit that line because this is going to have a lot of pressure on it. The line's on the inside too, not on the outside. And we're going to do it up here. Man, I don't think that's ever going to come out. There we are. That's what it looks like from the top side.
In this chapter, we're going to create the Mast boot top.
This is the boot top that comes in your kit, and we're going to put double-sided tape on the two short ends. It doesn't matter which side, because Sattler Marine Grade Fabric does not have a right side or a wrong side, and on one long side, okay? Before I take the double-sided tape off, I'm going to go ahead and, well, you don't have to, but I am going to. I'm going to mark it at 2 inches to create a 1-inch hem on all 3 of these sides. So 2 inches in is my reference, 2 inches in here, and 2 inches in here. Doesn't do nothing with this side. Okay, we're going to peel off the transfer paper on all the sides because we have to fold the 2 short ends first over. Ugh, get off of me. Get off of me, double-sided tape. This end, and we'll fold this one to that line too. With this boot top, I'm going to start here on one of the short ends, and I'm just going to sew approximately an 1/8 inch from their cut edge, and I'm going to do some reversing here and put the magnetic guide on so that we can keep it consistent. Now when I get to here, I'm going to stop sewing it at approximately that distance with the needle coming up before I pivot. Oops, I'm moving my magnetic guide. Let's do it like this. There we go. I'm a little bit off here, but so I'm going to move the guide just over a little bit. And we'll do that on the other short side as well. Okay, doing this leaves this raw, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a stitch really close to that edge by moving my needle to the right and just doing a straight stitch reversing here at the top just to secure that down. There are several ways to get that done. You could have sewn all the way to the edge and then down here at the bottom a short stitch reverse. Okay, we'll do the same thing on the other end, and that secures that edge down. It still looks good. The sail cover is up. You can see the logos up here and the hems are down. This is going to have outside surfaces facing each other. It goes on here, but we're going to put double-sided tape on this first. Now that edge looks, oh, how are you going to do that? Well, it's actually pretty easy. What I do is I straighten this out. So I do that, and then it's easy to sew that on and also apply the double-sided tape because we just fold it straight. One more time, double-sided tape goes on the outside surface. The outside surfaces face each other. Doesn't matter if you do it here or you do it there. I don't think it makes a difference at all. Peel off the transfer paper. In other words, you could have it flush here. You could have it flush here depending on how you want it to wrap. We're just going to start here because it's right here. Now I do like to, so I'll start right here and I will base this on and I'll straighten this out. We can follow that edge, and because there's a lot of shape here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some clips, and I'm going to clip it, especially at the area where there's shape. So right on the left side and the right side. Right there. Turn the grip clip around, put it there, and then we go here. Now this is supposed to be long, so don't trim it to size. I know that's a lot of boot, but it doesn't matter. It just wraps around the mast. Okay, let's take it and we're going to sew a 1/2 inch right there. Okay, we're going to start here at this end, and we're going to sew a 1/2 inch, so my needle's in the center position, and magnetic guides on it a 1/2 inch, and we're going to do some pretty heavy reversing here at the beginning, like that. Just make sure it stays basted together. If it's not, kind of fix it. The ends should be kind of matched up. They don't have to be perfect. When you get to the middle part, it's clipped in place, so it should be pretty easy. Once I get there, I'm going to remove that clip. Let's go ahead and remove that one too. It's basically straightened out. I'm going to move this back a little bit. We're going to sew through that. No reason to do any reversing or anything. Make sure you don't sew any wrinkles into the seam allowance area. So I splayed it out flat. That's perfect right there. Still basted on well. We're going to remove this clip. I put a clip on the ends too. Now we're going to stop sewing here where the sail cover stops, and I'll just do a little bit of reversing there. Okay, we're going to do a top stitch next. So we're going to take this out and remove the magnetic guide. So this is our boot. We want this seam allowance to fold up for our top stitch. Why is that? Well, that creates a shingle effect, so when water comes down, it doesn't get caught in the seam. So now because I put the boot on like this, I have to go all the way to the end and create a 1/2 inch fold here. So I'm just going to kind of crease it by eye here to about the 1/2 inch seam allowance, which is about right there. You could take this to the table and do it if you wanted to too, but I think that's pretty good. So we're going to start our top stitch here, and we're going to put it close to the fold. In other words, I'm going to keep my needle in center position, and my left side of my center foot is my guide. So let's do some reversing here. We want to do fairly heavy reversing here because we want this to stay hemmed, and we're going to go down this edge, creasing it as we go, a 1/2 inch. And what you should find is that it runs into your first stitch with a top stitch in the same spot, which it did. Okay, so we're just going to splay this out and sew all the way to the other end, creating our top stitch. I can feel that I'm sewing through my seam allowance. And then reverse here. And there we are. Boot's done. If you've got a zigzag machine to sew the leech line on, put it in zigzag and reduce your stitch length so it's really short, stitch length and forward and reverse. I've cut a length of leech line that's 6 foot in length and found the center, which is right there, folded it to find the center. We're going to put it right in the center of this, and we're just going to zigzag the bejeebers out of it. Now the hem is down, okay? It's much better to have it on the outside rather than the inside like we used to do in the past. It should go on the outside. Okay, so I'm going to just start stitching so that it secures the line right away. So in other words, I almost penetrated the line, and then I'm just going to do a lot of zigzags. This is just to hold it in place so it doesn't get lost in the weather if it comes untied. And you can do this with a straight stitch as well. Don't feel like you have to have a zigzag machine just to do this. And that should do it. So let's take a look. Oh yeah, that's not going anywhere.
In the next chapter, we're going to be creating the Lazy Jack slit openings. If you don't have Lazy Jacks, skip this chapter.
So here are my Lazy Jack slits. This is an optional step if you have Lazy Jacks. And what, don't have the cover be like this, but actually straighten out the backbone like this. Put the excess here for the throated area, because I'm kind of in the throated area. Now you can see they're not directly across from each other. I'm just going to probably split the difference. I mean, because I like them across from each other. So I'm going to put a line here, and then I'm going to put a line here, and then we're going to have our Lazy Jack slit be there and right there. And we're going to do the same thing over here. Okay, so again on the boat, we could see that we marked here and we marked a little bit over here. I'm going to split the difference because we do have a 4-inch gap between the two, and put a line like that. This one is, just so that we know, 6 inches. This one is 4 inches. I'm going to go 5. Split the difference there. 5 inches there, 5 inches here, right there. That's where they're going to be at. X marks the spot. This is a Lazy Jack with a zipper in it that is really nice, with a closure system with hook and loop, and then reinforced pearled chrome leather. So now we're on this one. So I'm going to fold the boot top back so that we get this fabric to lay flat. we're going to take our clear acrylic ruler. This is important to get it straight. And we're going to put this on so that it's parallel to the bottom edge, okay? And that this runs into our X marks the spot, okay? So don't do it unless it's parallel to this edge. So this line is perpendicular to the bottom edge. We're going to strike all the way down. This will be our slit. Then what we're going to do is we're going to put this on 3 inches. In other words, the line we just struck, 3 inches. And we're going to strike a line across the top here, which is 6 inches, and we're going to mark it 1 inch and 5 inches. That's because it's going to be a 4-inch slit. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to strike a line on the sides with our chalk. Okay, so now once we cut the slit, we know that everything is laying flat because our assembly will fit within these parameters here. So let's not cut the slit yet, but let's go on to the next step. And the next step is to determine the size of the panel that we're going to put in, because it's a lot easier to sew this separate from the cover because you can just twist it easily around. So we build those separately. You could sew it in, but it's a lot harder. So I'm going to put my clear acrylic ruler at this line 1.5 inches up. So 1.5 inches from that line, and then I'm going to go to the bottom edge down here, and I'm going to add a 1/2 inch to this. So a 1/2 inch to that, and I'm going to just, oops, this is the line that we had for something else. I'm going to mark it with my scribe ball right on the clear acrylic ruler, so that's a 1/2 inch down off that edge. Okay, now we need some scrap fabric. Let's set this aside. Okay, this edge is already hot knifed, so we want to cut this to 7 inches in width. So I'm going to put my clear acrylic ruler over here because it's only 6 inches wide and mark it at 7 inches here and just down here so that I can make it straight to that cut edge. And then we needed to go 21 1/8 is what we measured for ours. So we're going to put that at the bottom edge. That's a factory edge, so I don't have to worry about cutting it. And we're going to line it up with that line right here. And we'll put a line here and here. So this is always 7 inches wide, and it is the measurement that we determined off of this, because all of your slits will vary in size, but 7 inches is always the width. Okay, it's important to cut this out with a hot knife because you don't want these edges to unravel. And there will be a 1/2 inch hem all around the perimeter once we're done. So let's cut this out. So again, whatever our distance is, ours is 19 plus 2 inches and 7 inches. So 19, yeah, so we're just a little bit more than 21. Okay, so now we take this, and what I want to do is I want to put a line 1 inch from the edge on all sides on one side of the pattern, or one side of the Sattler fabric, I should say. It's not a pattern. We're going to flip this over. This will be the wrong side. This will be the right side now that we've got those marks on it. And we're going to strike a line that's 3.5 inches, which is centered. And I usually just go a little bit wider than 3.5 because of the fact that my chalk is going to make it a little bit fatter. So 3.5 is there. I strike a line all the way from the top to the bottom. That should be the middle, and then 1.5 inches from the top. So 1.5 inches, and I put my line a little bit outside of that because this is going to be, and then I go 2 inches from the middle, and I put a stop there, and a stop here, 2 inches from this side, 4-inch slit. Now we're going to cut right on that line that we just struck, and we're going to go up to the T, and I'll show you what we do there. If you cut too fast, it doesn't seal the edge, so don't be tempted to cut super fast with this hot knife. And stop there. I'm going to take scissors because it's hard to twist 90 degrees, and I'm going to cut that way. And I'm going to cut that way, and then I'm going to take my hot knife, and now I want to stop at those marks, okay? So I turn it on, and that basically seals the edge that I just cut. I stop there, and then I do it here and stop there. We're going to flip it over to the wrong side. That's the side that has all those marks on it. We're going to take our clear acrylic ruler, and we're going to put it 3/4 inch from that slit that we made. 3/4 inch. Be accurate with this. It's important that you're accurate. And I'm going to use a scribe ball on this side because it just makes a line that's closer to my ruler, so it's exactly 3/4. And then I'm going to do the same thing over here, 3/4 from the slit. I'm going to take double-sided tape and put it close to the cut edge that we did, all the way down its length, and on this side as well. And then I'm going to press it with the Sailrite canvas patterning ruler to bond the glue. Okay, this is a very small hem, and it won't want to stick very well, so just be warned. Even though we got double-sided tape on it, it's not going to want to stick because it's so small. We're going to fold to that line and crease it well. Best way to crease it in and here it is again to use a heavy object. Okay, we're going to do the same thing over here too. This is a embossed chrome leather that comes in the kit, and I marked it 2 inches up and 6 inches wide with my scribe ball. And you just want to cut it with scissors carefully to make it look as nice as possible and be as rectangular shaped as possible, which looks great. Now I'm going to put this on at 1 inch from the bottom edge, and I'm going to take my scribe ball. If you get the tip wet, it marks much better, and we're going to go to 5 inches. So this is our 4-inch slit. 1 inch from this edge, 1 inch from that edge. Then I'm going to put it on 3 inches, make sure that it's perpendicular to that line we just struck, and strike a line here 3 inches from this edge, so we got a T. Okay, now we flip it over and we put double-sided tape on the top edge, and we put double-sided tape on the bottom, but we don't go all the way across because we're going to have an exposed area, so we break it with probably a 1.5 inches or so opening at the bottom. That's close enough, it doesn't matter. Even if you get double-sided tape in there, it's not a big deal. Peel this off, peel off these two, and we'll flip this around. See how I told you it wasn't going to stay basted, but it's creased enough. We're going to flip this over to the right side. Okay, and it goes on like this, centered. So the slit is centered, and it should be right across the line that we struck. So you should have a 1/2 inch around the entire perimeter, which you do. Let's make sure that hem's down. Baste it down, and let's take it to the machine. So needle's off to the right, and we want to sew as close to this edge as possible. And I like to start up here at this corner. Reason is that we can sew all the way around. So I'm going to do some reversing here. Don't have to do a lot, just a little. And we're going to sew very close to that edge, all the way down here, and we're going to pivot at the corner. That's almost perfect. Needle's coming up, so I can lift my foot and I can pivot on the buried needle. And I'm going to come down to the next corner. This one's going to come off, so I'm going to use a reverse lever to get it in the right spot. That's beautiful. Needle's coming up. Now we have to shove all this stuff back as I twist it around. I just put it back here. And I want to make sure this hem is folded under. So I folded it under, and then I lower my foot and I sew to that hem, and I want to stay in the canvas. So I want to stop right there. Okay, the needle's coming up so I can turn without skipping a stitch. I'm going to sew up to this black line and stop short of it. So right about there. Again, I'm going to use the reverse lever to make sure that I don't sew into that line. Yeah, there we go. Needle's coming up, pivot again. We're twisting this thing all the way around, but you can do this all in one step. So my right side of my center foot is on the line, or close to it, which means the stitch is not on the line. I don't want the stitch on the line. I'm going to go 1 stitch past that end of the line, and then I'm going to pivot here, and I'm actually going to do some reversing here, but only about 2 stitches in reverse, okay? And then we're going to try to find the spot that's equal on the other side and pivot on that. That's looking good. Now, this is going to want to come on, the hem's going to want to come up, so I'm going to put some pressure down on that hem as I sew. Not that I'm sewing through that yet, I just want it to stay down. We're going to sew past this by 1 stitch or so. Yeah, which is good. Pivot, do a couple little stitches in the reverse, pivot, and just pull this leg through, fold this hem. There, now we're going to be good. We're going to sew right through that hem and secure it in place. so next to that line, but not over top of it. Stop before you reach the end of the canvas, which looks like right about there. Pivot one more time, come down the canvas. Okay, and then pivot again. Oops, my needle's not buried. I'm buried a little bit. There we go. Put it in, we're gonna sew up to this corner and pivot again and sew up the top and then do reversing, and that leather's installed. There we go. Okay, so this is our 24-inch zipper. There's some different lengths with Lazy Jack kit. We want to put double-sided tape on the side that has the sliders polar. So there's the polar. Wee, wee, wee. This is a 1/4-inch seam stick. I wouldn't recommend using the 3/8. It's just too wide for this because a lot of the zipper is going to be exposed. You're going to put it down both edges. Obviously the zipper is too long, so I'm going to break it right here because that's plenty of zipper, and we'll do it down here as well. Okay, so now I need to start the zipper 1 3/4 inches from the edge, so from the raw edge, so 1 3/4 right here. So I just mark one side. Okay, so now we're going to take this, the starter box and the starter pin go down below, and it really should just be lined up with the edge of the canvas. I don't know if you can see that here, but it's just right on that edge, and it should be perfect since we did careful measurements. And we'll go right up here. And we're going to leave this zipper long, so don't worry about cutting it yet. And then we're going to get this hem down. We're going to push this one up, and we're going to do the same thing with this. Oops, looks like I got it under that edge. So before you go to the machine, turn it over and make sure that everything looks centered and perfect, and it does. Now we're going to go to the machine. Here's our slit, and here's our stitch. I want to stop sewing halfway between those, so I'm just taking chalk to indicate where I want to stop sewing. Now we're going to put it in the machine, and I'm going to do it so it's upside down. Make sure everything stays basted, and we're going to move our needle to the left. We're going to move our needle to the left to get closer to those teeth. We're going to start right up here, and if you have this foot against here and the needle to the left, you should sew through the canvas on the other side, starting at this position. So we want to do some reversing here. That's going to sew it into the leather, and then we'll just follow it all the way down this side. Okay, when we get to this, it's going to run into this slightly, so I'm going to have to cant it slightly. See how the foot's going to run into that starter box? So I'm going to go this way, and I'm going to do a little bit of reversing here. We don't have to do much because we're going to sew it with other stuff, and then we're going to go all the way to the end and reverse there as well. Okay, now that side's done. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing here. I'm just going to leave the needle in that position, and I'm going to start down here at the bottom and do a little bit of reversing there. Come up to here. I'm going to do a little bit of reversing in this, and then sew up this leg in the same manner. And we want to stop at that spot that we indicated earlier, which is right up here, and we want to do reversing right there. So right in there. Now we're over the leather. Now we got to inspect the leather. Sometimes the leather folds up, and then I have to redo it. It didn't do too bad. It folded up a little bit. I mean, if you want to be careful of that, you can, but it's not really going to matter that much. Even if you ripped up the stitches and redid it right there, you're not going to notice it because we're going to have a hook and loop over here, and we're going to have a pocket over here. So now we're going to cut the leather on top of the black marks, but on this side, when we reach this, we're going to flip it over, and we're going to pull the zipper back. We're not going to cut the zipper yet. There's a reason for that. And that reason is that the slider would get in the way when we sew some of the hook and loop closures on. And then we're going to cut here without cutting our canvas all the way to the end there and over here as well. So now I want to measure from the bottom edge of the leather and to the starter box down here. And I get 16 3/4. So I want to add an inch to that. So that'd be 17 3/4, and I want this to be 4.5 inches wide. So I'm putting it on 4.5 right there. And let's just put a line here. And I said 17.5, I think, yeah. 17 3/4 right there. Okay, and we're gonna cut a rectangle that is 4.5 by whatever the length of that measurement you just made for your slit. Now I'm going to put double-sided tape on the two short sides. Sometimes you could just twist it over like this and make a 90-degree turn. Creates a wrinkle, but who cares? It's double-sided tape. And we're not going to do it on the one long side. So right here we're going to stop it. We're going to peel this all off, and we're going to hem the two short ends first, just kind of like we did before. This is our hook and loop flange. Create approximately 1/2 inch hem. That's a little bit on the small side, but I think it's going to be close enough. And then before we baste it together, we're going to take this and see if it covers our zipper completely. Yes, it does. It's perfect. So now we're going to fold it right in half like this so that the hems are on the inside. Okay, this is our hook. The hook's on the bottom side. I mean, facing the tabletop, I should say. Putting double-sided tape on top of it and just down the middle someplace. And we're going to baste this to this flange here. And to do that, we're going to put it close to the fold, close to the edge, but not sticking over the edge because we don't want the sun to get to this if at all possible. So it's very close to that edge. It doesn't have to be the full length. I'm a little bit off here, but that'll work. Let's take it to the machine. Okay, I'm starting on the raw side and my needle's in the right position. Do a little bit of reversing here. We'll sew to this corner here, and we want to make sure that we sew in the hook. So pivot on that needle, and then I want to sew down this side. Now the stitch will, if it's over top of the hook, it'll look like it's not flat against the hook, and that's totally normal because the hook rises up. When I get to this end, I'm going to bury it and sew this end shut, reversing there. And we're going to sew down this side in the same manner. And you can see how the thread looks like it's wonky. That's normal for hook. If you look at this side, it looks great. Let's sew this one. Reversing at the beginning and the end. So now we have the loop, and it's going to go on this side. You want it to be right underneath the leather and go no deeper than the into the zipper. We're going to put double-sided tape on this, and I'll show you how we baste it to that. Okay, so this, I don't want any of the canvas to show. I want it to actually be over top of this edge right here. So I'm going to put it like close to the zipper, like that, all the way down. Let's take it to the machine. So here we'll start at the top, and we'll just do some reversing here, and we're just going to run down both long legs of this. Okay, to sew this on, we're going to put the outside surface down like this and start at the top of the leather, and we're going to run this so that it's flush with this folded edge here. But we're going to put the needle now in center position. It's kind of important to put the needle in center position so your stitch isn't too close to that raw edge, because we're going to do a top stitch as well. So we're going to position this here, and I'm actually just going to, I haven't basted, and I'm just kind of holding it in place. And I'm going to put my right side of my center foot with my needle in center position up against this raw edge. We want to do some reversing up here at the top, and then we want to just sew down like that, positioning it as we go. Now when we get to the bottom, we want to do a lot of reversing because I can only top stitch up to about that point. So I want to make sure this doesn't come loose. So I'm going to sew off of that, and then I'm going to reverse, and then I'm going to go forward and reverse one more time. That's plenty. Take it out. And now we're going to fold it back and create a top stitch, which will help to kind of hold it in position. So I'm going to fold this on that first stitch that we have, and it basically closes it up. Okay, we're going to start at the top over here. We are going to put the needle in the left position for this because I want this super close to that edge because we don't have much of a seam allowance on the bottom side. So we want to put that right up there so that stitch is very, very close to that folded edge. and this is really thick here. So I'm going to help kind of feed this in and do some reversing here. Okay. And then I'm going to kind of push down because there's a lot of bulk here as I'm feeding. So close to that. And there's multiple layers, so I want to go fairly slow here. Now, when I get to this starter box down here, I'm going to stop, you'll see. And that's quite all right to stop right here. See, it really can't go any further without walking over that huge hump. So I'm going to reverse. And that is done. It looks great. Now we can cut the zipper, but before we do that, we want to push this slider down. See, the slider would have ran into all those things while we were sewing. So what I do is I push the slider down and I push that puller through here. Then I open up our hook system and I push it down to there right now. And we want to cut our zipper so that it is just 1 tooth or so past the stitches that we made right here. And don't cut our leather, and don't cut the canvas, just the zipper. Okay, now we should use a hot knife on these, but I won't show that. These are snap caps. They fit on YKK and Lin Zip zippers. This is a Lin Zip, and I put it 1 tooth down, and I just put it on so that the, whoops, we should look at it. See, there's the opening you put it on with, but this needs to go for the tape, so it goes on just like that. If you put it on any other way, it won't snap into position. And it should be snapped down all the way, so there we go, so that the teeth are basically flush with the end. So that one's on, and let's put one on over here. Doesn't have to be exactly across from each other, but I think I'm going to put them exactly across from each other. So this will be down 3 teeth, or 2 teeth. Okay, because those stops are kind of in the middle of this assembly here right now, right here, this slider goes up like that. I fold this down, and then this basically hides it all. Beautiful. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to put double-sided tape on all 4 sides here. Start down here at the bottom and just fold up to that line that we created, right like that. That creates a 1 inch or ½ inch hem. And then we'll do the top up here. This will almost fold on your leather, like that. So you want to go kind of be right up against the edge of the leather. Nice. That's a little bit less than a ½ inch, but that's quite sufficient. And then these get folded to the line on both the sides. Same thing over here. Now we're putting double-sided tape on top of the hems that we just created. I'm not going to do it down here at the bottom. It doesn't really need it. Okay, before we do anything here, we need to cut this. We need to use the Sailrite Edge hot knife with the precision cutting foot and blade. And we're going to cut only the middle line. Don't get confused. The reason we made these lines on the side is because once you cut this, you may not be able to get the opening exactly right, but since we have lines on the side, you get it perfect. So we're going to go up here. Now we're going to stop at those marks that create a 4-inch slit. So nobody's going to see this right here. I'm just going to come across here, but we definitely want to stop right there. I'm going to do the same thing here. So now I'm going to put double-sided tape on the end of this, and we're going to hem this over. Now I know this is the outside of the fabric. That's that. Don't say, hey, he's doing it wrong. I'm not. I want to fold it to the outside of the fabric. So the hems are facing down, the logo's up. We're going to peel off the transfer paper, and we're going to fold to that line. Okay, so this will enable us to catch it with our stitch. So right to there. And we're going to do the same thing to this one. We're going to fold it over to this line. Okay, we want the slit at the top, but we want to start at the bottom. Since we have that line on there, we know exactly where this goes, and we want this to be flush with the bottom edge. And if anything, just hiding that line slightly all the way on this side. Once I get this side on, then we want to look to see if our slit's in approximately the same spot, and it is. It can be a little bit off and it's not going to harm anything. Once I have that side on, I'm going to clip this. Then we're going to start with this side, and again, we want it flush with the bottom, and we're going to use that line on this side as a reference to make sure that it goes on nice and straight. Like that. And then we're going to put a clip on this side as well, because this is the only thing that really holds it securely in place as we take it to the machine. So everything is basted down nicely. Now we can take it over and sew it. So I could roll this up, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to bunch it up in here so I can start at this top corner. So I'm just moving the fabric over, and we can start up here, needles to the right, and I'm going to sew along this edge, doing some reversing at the top here. Make sure everything stays basted before you start. Okay, and we can sew down this. Now, I'm not going to pivot on the needle like I usually do, except for at this bottom corner, because it's easy to do. I'm actually going to do reversing and then reposition, which is not a bad thing to do. So we're sewing through this close to that edge, but not so close that we're going to miss that fold that we have underneath. We're going to hit that as well. I'm going to move that out of the way so you can see. I can remove this clip now. We'll come down here to the bottom edge here, and we can pivot on the needle, or I could just do some reversing here, which isn't a bad idea. And then I'll pivot on the needle. Lift my foot, roll this around, lower the foot, sew to here and reverse. Nice. We'll skip this middle section and lower the foot here, and I will do some reversing here. Nice. Sew up to here. Now I'm just going to reverse here because I'm going to reposition everything. Perfect. Now I'm going to pull this out, and we're going to reposition it. So we can sew from here all the way to here. So to do this, what I typically do, because this is a zipper assembly, is I fold it almost in half like this. And then I feed it through the machine. And if I have to fold it more, I can just kind of lift this up to get it in the throat, fold it up. And then we're going to put our needle in the left position for this. And we're going to sew down this side, the top, reversing at the beginning. Sorry, I got to have my hand go around. Whoa. When I get to this corner, I got to make sure the fabric's not getting caught on my table. I'm going to bury the needle. Needle's coming up, pivot on the needle. We're going to pull this out. I'm going to pull some of this fabric in so we can easily sew this. Make sure it's still basted right where you want it, which it is, and sew down this side. And when we get to the bottom, we'll do some reversing there as well. That's all there is to it. We need to do this for all the Lazy Jack slits in your sail cover.
Installing Twist-Lock Fasteners along the bottom edge is next.
Now we're going to put Twist-Lock Fasteners in this bottom hem. Now if your boom is less than 13 foot or 13 foot, I would just measure back 18 inches. Now you do have to use your brain, you know, if you've got a super fat mast, then you may have to reposition that. Anything that's above 13 foot, we usually go around 24. Obviously, if it were bigger and I ran into this, I would just put it probably right here or right over here. So now, from that measurement, I'm going to measure with a tape measure all the way to the end, and we'll divide it to see how many fasteners we can put in with what comes in the kit. Okay. So I get 121 inches. I definitely want to put a fastener here, but not in this hem because it probably won't go through there. So I'll probably put it right here, which should be close enough to this bottom edge. So we have 121, and we want to put a fastener about every 14 to 20 inches. So we're going to just say, let's just put them every 16 inches. That's just what I feel like putting them. So that means I need to put, let's round it up to 8 fasteners in. Since we need 8 fasteners, there will be 7 spots. So now let's put our 121 in again. which is the length from fastener to the end of the next fastener, and divide that by, what was that, 7 spots. So we need to put a fastener every 17.28, so we'll do 17 1/4.
Pause the video here if you'd like to study these equations.
17 1/4, 17 1/4. Now if you run into this, like I'm running into this, I'm just going to back it off a little bit because I don't want to go into all that thickness. So I'm just marking all the way down the length, and if I need to make changes, I can if it doesn't come out fairly even. Okay, this is a Sailrite Twist-Lock Fastener hole cutter. It has an oval center and 4 prongs. It works really great for this. Now, if you don't have this, you can use a razor blade. We want to put the rubber cutting block, not the hard cutting block, under here to protect the prongs. The idea is these holes should be parallel with this edge, and you want to position it hopefully so you don't cut your threads, but if you do cut your threads, it's not a big deal. See, it looks like right there I'm not going to be cutting the threads. It looks like it's perfectly parallel, and then I'm going to give it a blow with a mallet. I usually go almost all the way to the bottom, as you can see here. That way I'm assured that I went through. And look at that, it's beautiful. If you don't have a tool like this, you can always use a razor blade. And the way that you'd use a razor blade is you just basically position this over top. You would take a pencil and mark around there. Now we're going to take these 4 prongs and push them through. Make sure this is the outside surface that you're pushing it through. Flip it over. I usually put this on the bottom side just to prevent damage to anything. And then put the washer on here. And then you can take a screwdriver, or you can take this special tool that really works well and bend that over the washer, which I did a terrible job of doing. There we go. Put the washer back. And then bend this one over. And this one. And a screwdriver does work for this, but this is just much easier. Then I usually tap it with the end, and that eyelet is installed. We're going to continue down this edge, doing this all the way, and then I'll show you how we do the other side. Okay, so now we're going to fold it so that the wrong side is on the inside, the outside is up. And we're going to fold it right in half, and I'll probably just clip it with a clip. So we want this flush, clip it there, and I'm going to take my marking utensil, kind of mark that at each location. Okay, so make sure it's lined up perfectly. Okay, so these are going to go in like that, so right over our spot, and we're going to mark it with a pencil, or this is a scribe ball, so we have it at that location. Now just do that for all these locations here. I'm going to put the rubber cutting block under here, and then I'm going to use a spin cut. Now if you don't have this, you can use an awl or something, but this definitely makes this job easy. So now we put a button through here, and these come in the kit. And we put this has the oval side and the side for the eyelet. We obviously want the concave side up with a button over top of it. We put this over it, and then this little sleeve has to come off. It doesn't give you enough clearance for that. So I'm going to put this in a vise, and I don't want to apply too much pressure, otherwise it just crimps it down more, but hopefully enough that we can just hit this and hopefully that sleeve will fall off. Almost made it. Looks like I'm going to have a punch to do this now. Now I'm just going to tighten this up and hit it with a punch. There we go. So now with that sleeve gone, this fits beautifully. And that rolled over nicely. We're going to put a button in this side, put it on this, run it through the hole, line it up. There we go. Nice. And here's what the bottom side, the outside looks like, because we are working from the inside. We're going to continue down and repeat the process until we get them all installed.
Now that the cover is done, let's install it over our flaked sail on the boom.
All right, time to install it. We have all of the Lazy Jack slits open. And now just position them around the Lazy Jacks. And we start up here around the mast. Good. There we go. And then we can start this zipper. I'm going to go on the other side and do the same.
While we're installing this sail cover, let's talk about the Sattler Marine Grade Fabric. It's a solution dyed acrylic fabric that's perfect for marine canvas and awnings. With its high UV resistance, water resistance, and breathability, it's great for a sail cover like this. And as mentioned at the beginning of the video, the Twist-Lock Fasteners at the bottom edge with the buttons on the opposite side look great and secure the sail cover beautifully over the mainsail.
Okay, we'll take the boot top and we'll wrap it around. And one line just goes forward and one goes back. And we'll use these lines to tie it back.
Our throated sail cover kit is now complete. This kit included the optional Lazy Jack Slit Kit, which has all the components for a 2-leg, 3-leg, or 4-leg Lazy Jack system. Order those at the same time that you order the throated sail cover kit if you have Lazy Jacks. In the description below, you will find links to order the throated sail cover kit and also the optional Lazy Jack Slit Kit. And you'll see the list of tools and materials that we used to build this throated sail cover kit with the optional Lazy Jack Slit Kit. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Also subscribe and click the bell to be notified of new tutorial videos when they become available. I'm Eric Grant, and from all of us here at Sailrite, thanks for watching.